What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV with your host here, Dano, giving you the best content that you're going to find on the internet. If you stay for 10 minutes, I promise you're going to stay for the entire episode because we have the legendary Sid McNairy here, who has just a plethora of gold mines and gold nuggets of information that we can use in our everyday life to make sure we're achieving and experiencing true peace and happiness every single day. So, Sid, what do you have to say to the positivity posse before we get started?
The first thing I want to say, because I've just been through it, and I know everybody's going through life, as I like to say, life is lifing, and peace is the power to live by, and the way to power is peace. So whenever you're in something, if you can find your way back to peace, is where you can birth that place of love, that connection, that uplifting space. And right about now, we all, at least here in the United States, especially, are looking for that place of connection and unity to join together and continue to lift up. So that's what I got to say.
We love it. Here on Weekly Dose of Dano, we are one of those outlets or one of those pieces of media that you can find as you'll experience today if this is your first time watching. But when we all come together and we have that support system, we don't really have to look too far. But we're going to talk really in depth about the strategies just to get to peace. And I know one of the ones that we're going to talk about is definitely breathing techniques because Sid is a master when it comes to meditation. And, we talk about that week in and week out on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. So we have a lot to cover in such a short amount of time. But let's get started with everything. Please leave your love, leave your comments and your positive energy and your questions in the comments, and we will show them live here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. So everybody, sit back, relax, and let's raise our vibrations because it's time for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Let's go, everybody. Everybody, I'm so excited for this episode. We have a lot of familiar faces that I see in the comments as I've been showing it throughout the show opener, but I just want to touch on them again. Christopher Casson, is so lovely to see you. Your mind is absolutely amazing. I love it every time that you tune in on the show and you leave your golden nuggets because even though you may not talk as much as us or as much as I do, because I know I can ramble a lot, everything that you say is just full of insights and wisdom. Beautiful member of the Positivity Posse, Jeanette Ramos, legend in the building as well. We have Christopher Rouse. It's so nice to see you again, Chris. Haven't talked to you in a minute. I hope everything is going well with you. And then we have Lou, which is an OG member of the Positivity Posse as well. So thank you everybody for being here. And for the people that may not, watch on YouTube or they might not watch on Facebook, we see you, we feel you, and we appreciate you so, so much. So before we bring Sid on officially, I have to spend this time with my positivity posse, and I want to talk about today's topic is going to be about finding an outlet. So, when it comes to all of the things that we may be experiencing in life, whether it's the loss of a loved one, or maybe we didn't get that job interview that we wanted to get, or maybe it can be you failed the test, or you didn't go to the gym today. It can be so many different things that we can get down on ourselves about, but we need to find outlets, healthy outlets, in order to really get back to that space of love and peace, as Sid talks about time and time again. And the biggest ones that I can give you guys, I think number one is meditation. I practice it every single day. That is just as important as eating and drinking food in order to stay alive. And if you ask anybody that has experience in meditation, they all say the same thing. It's a daily practice that you need to do in order to come back to it. And it doesn't have to be, sitting there and doing what most people think meditation is. It can be as something as simple as, meditating on a scripture in the Bible, if you believe in that. Or it can be as something as clearing your mind and feeling what's going on the inside at any given moment. We can always return back to it, and it's free, right? Because it's always going to be with us, our breath, as long as we're alive. And we can just snap to it right then and there. Another big piece that I know Sid is huge on is physical fitness, whether it's going to the gym. For me, I play in a basketball league every week, which last night we just lost in the second round of the finals, in the second round of the playoffs. But, that's all right, because we use that as experience and we use that as positive fuel, as learning lessons for what we can do better going forward into the future when I do play next season as well. So all of these things, yes, they're fun to do, but they are essential to our everyday well-being. Because if we don't have these things in place, then we can kind of start to get into our minds and really start to believe the negative programming that we are fighting through in this world, right? Whether it's society, whether it's our family members that have been programmed in a negative way and they want to pass that programming on to us. These are the different things that we are fighting, and even ourselves, right? If we're not speaking kindly to ourselves in our mind, or if we are believing the negative thoughts, there's so many different things that we can pinpoint. But when we have these, safe practices and healthy practices that we can go to in order to combat that and reprogram ourselves towards a positive direction, then that is one of our major keys that we're going to be talking about here today in order to make sure we are living a life of peace, happiness, and joy all around. Because when we are in those states of peace, joy, and happiness, that's when we can go and affect one other person. That other person can affect 100 people. That 100 people can affect 1,000, so on and so forth. So don't ever think that by you taking time for yourself for these healthy practices, that is being a selfish, because it's not. We can't expect to help, other sick people if we're sick and we're bedridden, right? So really just take the time and find whatever that thing is for you. It can be music. If you love to play an instrument, you can heal the world that way. It can be meditation. It can be in the sports arena. It can be just having, coffee with a friend. Whatever it is, you have to find it for yourself. I don't want to over talk too much, because we have a lot of things that we need to talk about since Sid is on the show. But I just want to talk about a few comments. Christopher Caston right here. I prefer hiking along the mountain trails. That's beautiful. Nature is definitely a great spot to go to do that. I'm near the beach area as well. I'm just an hour drive away, so the beach is another great suggestion for you as well. Christopher says Nirvana rocks. You know what? You rock too as well. But yes, I do love the band Nirvana. And finally, we have Josh here that says, let's go. So now we have Lou right here that says, I love hitting the gym and more recently bowling. There it is, everybody. Please learn from the Positivity Posse and everything that we're going to say, Sid and I, on the show, because we have a lot of gold mines of information to give everybody. And I know you all know and love it, but it's just that important to share it with the world and show the universal God that we do know what we're talking about and we're practicing what we are preaching. So that's all, everybody. Whatever questions, comments that you do have for Sid, or even if you just want to show him love, drop it here on Weekly Dose of Dano, and we will bring it to you and we will share it live so we can all feel this connection and this peace and this love all together, because that's what we need now more than ever. So it's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to Sid, and it's all up to us to make it happen. So thank you, everybody. Now it's time to bring Sid onto the show. When I tell you, I can't even begin to talk about his journey and his story, because he's accomplished so much in such a short amount of time, and we can all learn from his experience, which is why he is here on Weekly Dose of Dano, blessing us with his gold mines and his presence as well. So everybody, it's time to welcome Sid McNairy onto the show. Let's get it, everybody. Sid, my man, what are you thinking?
I love the energy. You bring it, and it's infectious. So I'm excited to see where we go tonight. So
oh yeah, well, we have a bunch of different places where we're going to go to tonight, and it's hard really to pinpoint where we're going to start, because like I said, you achieved so much in such a little bit of time. But if you want to just give a brief description, because I know it's going to be hard to fit in one small segment, but just give a brief description to everybody of who you are, and then we're going to dive into the meat and the potatoes of everything.
Well, I'd say a brief description of who I am is I'm human. Uh, at the end of the day, all the different things that I am on the inside, from most people don't know, I have Indonesian blood, I have Native American, Egyptian, Scottish, French, and I could keep going. And so I'm human. When people ask me, all right, what's your nationality? Well, I'm human. And that's really what it's come down to in my life, is being in that place of connection that really connects to everyone. I know that from me to everybody in here, there's Yun, good friend of mine. I am connected to you. There's atoms from me to you that touch nothing else but you. And so, because of that, I know that I am connected to you. So, what I do affects you, and what you do affects me. So, we're all connected in that way. And that's shown up through my life, from playing sports, starting meditation when I was 8 years old, going through sports, coaching college football, teaching yoga around the world, speaking around the world, and helping people transform their frequency to heal their bodies, and so much more. That's the quickest sum up of me in this amount of time.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, you talked about something that has been hitting my heart heavily for really like the past month now. And I love the fact it's this that I love the fact that you didn't label yourself in the ways of, oh, I'm a sports player or I'm an author or all of these things. A lot of people start to get tied with what they do externally to their identity, whether it's their job, whether it's their race, whether it's wherever they come from in the world. It can be American. All of these labels, I really, really do believe we are compartmentalizing ourselves, and we put ourselves in the box. But you didn't do that. So can you kind of talk a little bit about why it is that you said that you're a human being more than anything else?
Well, to actually put myself in any of those boxes, right? I could easily say I'm an international best-selling author. Then everybody that meets me puts me in that space and only relates to me in that way. I could say that I'd helped people heal from cancer, HIV, get out of wheelchairs, all those things. So then all of a sudden, Sid is just a healer. Well, I am so much more than those labels. I'm so much more than those things that I've done in my past. And in order to expand to what is possible for me, I've got to let go of thinking that I'm in this box, because that box creates the paradigm of where I am. And in order for me to expand it to the unknown, I've got to get out of the way that way. And so for me, that's always been kind of my makeup. When after 12 years of coaching college football and all the stuff, and my dad finally saying, okay, I know you're supposed to be a college football coach, and I left the next day, that was different, or when I was teaching yoga and traveling the world and owning all these yoga studios, and my soul was saying there's more to it than this. And my son bought me out, and then I hit the road with my wife, and we kept going until we figured out where to live and how to live, and waited for the calling for what's next for me. I couldn't have done that if I was tied to all the things that I did in the past. And so I feel that for everybody right now, it's like, okay, if you thought things had to be a certain way when the pandemic stopped those ways, there's got to be more to it, to me, and for me, everything is an opportunity for a spiritual enlightenment, to turn it up. We're all enlightened. Everybody that's watching this is enlightened. The light is already inside of me, yet there's something to turning the light all the way up, and I haven't even gotten close to that yet, because I know my mind goes way out there, and I haven't touched those things yet, and yet they are all possible. So that's kind of the quick answer to that.
Yeah, and just the fact that you kind of said in a humble way that you don't know it all just yet, and that you're approaching life kind of in that learner first, that I don't know anything, what can I do to learn? I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I try to tell people that you exemplify as well. It's so important because once we do start to think that we know it all, then life goes to show us, oh, you don't know nothing yet. Wait until and just watch what I'm about to do to turn your world upside down. And it doesn't always have to be that way, but it just seems that though that is when we start to really expand, when our backs are up against the wall and we have to go through some challenging times. So I love the fact that you are humble in your nature and that you understand that you have more to go. And one of your philosophies as well is that you always say that winning follows you naturally and everywhere that you go. So, with that line of thinking, everybody, like you said, is a master manifester. Everybody is successful and everybody is naturally that way. But we've been programmed to think otherwise. So, for you, did that always come to you naturally to think that winning always followed you, or did you have to reprogram your mind to think that?
Well, I'd have to say I've one been relentless about my pursuits. You know, I've never had that, okay, this is the end result. Like if I lost something, if I got 458 wins in the history of my athletic career and coaching and all that, and I have 98 losses. Now each loss helped me become a better winner. So I never looked at, even when I never had those moments for whatever reason of like crying when we lost the championship. It was like, okay, here comes the next one. That's my wife. So I just want to say hi to my wife because she's absolutely amazing. And I won with her for sure. Won in life. Now I could look at and say I was married twice before. I had a long relationship. I had short relationships. And now I'm winning because of those relationships. Like those relationships that didn't go the way some people may have perceived them to should have gone. I'm not a shoulda, woulda, coulda person. Yet, because of that, I'm actually living in the relationship that was possible. And so there's never been this feeling of loss, except for when people tried to tell me this wasn't good enough. It actually was good enough. It was exactly the way it needed to be. It's perfect. I am perfect. You are perfect. Everybody that's watching in this moment is perfection. And the moment to actually act like they weren't perfectly designed to get us to be the person we were meant to become says that God is imperfect. And for me, God is perfect.
Wow. Very profound. And I just want everybody to see kind of the distinction of how Sid talks and how, he is just as a human being and as just a wonderful spiritual being that has come on this earth to really raise the vibes of the earth. But, earlier he just said that he understands that he has more to learn. And now he's saying that he is perfect. So it is possible to live in those two realms or paradigms simultaneously. But we just kind of have to really work on it because I know in the beginning it wasn't always this way too. And Sid, exactly what you said is what I subscribe to, that yes, everything happens for our greatest and highest good. And if you go back to any episode, literally probably in the history, well, maybe like the past 2 seasons of Weekly Dose of Dano, I say that every single week because that is a mantra that once we start to develop in our own lives and we really believe that, well, what happens if things happen the way that we wouldn't prefer them to? Then you know that it's leading you to that right stage. And for you, Sid, it was, being together with your wife right now and your professional career. So all the things that are happening that may not happen the way that we would prefer them to, we need darkness in order to see the light, right? So it's not necessarily darkness if it's leading you to the light. It's just that contrast. So let's honor both sides of it, the successes and the failures. I'm going to put quotes around that because, as you know, they're not really failures, right? Because they're leading us and teaching us. But it's really important. So I really love you guys for being here as well. To the Positivity Posse, thank you for lighting it up in the comments. And Sid, thank you so much for being here as well. We have to hear a word from our first sponsor, but when we come back, I want to dive a little bit more into your professional career and everything that you've accomplished as well. So here is a word from our first sponsor, which is actually the Power of Choices. And you're going to see two familiar faces on there. So everybody, please hear it out for the Power of Choices and let us know what you think. And we'll be right back with some more of this great content here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV.
we do is very interactive, but very, very powerful because, look, yeah, I was an educator for 30 years. I don't believe in just academic education. The lack of character education, which is what we do, changes a culture, and it doesn't take 3 months or 3 years to do it.
We are the guys that come in that will teach these kids everything that they need in order to really be the best version of themselves and to get the skills to succeed in life, no matter what life throws at them. Everybody, that was our first sponsor, The Power of Choices, where me and Mark Hoberman go into schools, camps, and organizations to teach the next generation about mental resilience, anti-bullying, substance prevention, and things along those lines. So if you need anybody like that, we are your guys. So hit us up. But Sid, man, I know we said we're going to jump into your journey a little bit more, but we're talking about so many abstract concepts, and I love just everything that you've said so far. So we're going to keep going more about the things that we need to do in order to live a life full of happiness, joy, and peace. So forgiveness is a huge piece that I don't think a lot of people understand what it actually means. A lot of people say, yeah, I forgive this guy, but they don't, embody it in their emotions or in their actions, so that when the same instance or situation repeats in their life, they just go about it and they are doomed to repeat it until they actually figure out what forgiveness is. So can you tell us about a time in your life that you had to experience forgiveness or demonstrate it to the highest degree, and what you had to do to truly forgive?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and speak to it on myself. It's easy for me to talk about somebody else and point fingers out at other people. And remember, when you point a finger out at somebody, there's 3 of them pointing back at you. And when I look at myself, I had to forgive me for not knowing all the things I know today. And those things were, knowing how to be the person I wanted to be in relationships, knowing how that every relationship that went south, I was there. I don't care what the relationship is. I am a party of that. We go through this equation of living when I'm working with people. A plus B equals C. I am A. Everything outside of me is B, and C is the relationship I have with it. So anytime there was an inauthentic relationship, I was somehow inauthentic. It only takes one person to make an authentic relationship. And so that's the biggest thing. So I had to forgive myself for not knowing what I know now, which then looks like letting go of penalizing myself in my mind for the things that were somewhat setbacks. So I think that's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is giving away away the things that hold me back from being attuned. And that can look in many different ways. If someone has an action that, 90% of the time they're great people, and then 10% of their actions are make you cringe, I can let go of that so that it doesn't have to continue to hold me in prison.
I love that. And just the fact that you are able to recognize and be aware of that and forgive yourself, that's where it all starts, is forgiving yourself for the things that you did do or the things that you didn't do in your life, right? If you wronged somebody or you didn't make that decision to go and follow your dreams 10 years ago, it's all the same thing. And all these things are teaching you something that we need to learn in our lives as well. So don't always think that it's a bad thing. We imbue whatever life or whatever meaning we want to give to these situations and these circumstances in our lives. And for everybody that's out there as well, please let us know of some techniques or strategies that we can use to really implement forgiveness or empathy to the highest degrees of in our own lives as well. So Sid, for somebody that is just so in tune and has just lived their life to the fullest and to the highest degree that they can, what's a morning routine look like for you?
Well, my morning routine, I wake up without an alarm. That's kind of something I've just evolved to. Between 4 and 4:45 a.m., I'm usually up, and I go right to whatever I need to do to get ready to sit for the next hour and a half to 2 hours. Um, I meditate. And that's something that started for me at 8 years old, a blessing that I was gifted from being taken into high level sports. I just happened to, in the 70s, to have a coach that said, okay, these young people that I'm grooming to take to other countries have to know how to be still. So I learned that, and that's probably one of the most important things in my life, is to continue to have meditation in my life. And then after that, I like to make hot, scalding hot tea, because when it's scalding hot, I've got to take my time. I've got to sip it. Can't just chug it or my tongue would be burned. So then that causes me to get into the motion of being slower. I go for a walk. At some point, I start my day and start really connecting to other people, and we have a show called Living Your Dream, or Living Your Practice While Living Your Dream. And that's a big part of it for me, is to make sure that I'm putting my mind in motion the way I want it to show up throughout the day.
I love that too. And a lot of people don't realize that whatever it is that you're doing to start your day is just going to lead down a trickle effect to everything else that we do. So if the first thing that you think about when you wake up is, how am I going to pay my bills? Where am I going to get this money from? How am I going to deal with my coworkers at work? Then your mind is just starting off on that path of, downward spiraling or negativity, so that if somebody bumps into you on the street or you drop your coffee, then those are going to be the catalyst to kind of go down that negative thinking. But it's so important to start your day with meditation or listening to something spiritual or just something with personal development, in order to get your mind thinking about the ways that we can improve and how we can achieve that happiness and peace every single day. So Sid, I know that you are an expert in teaching other people how to meditate. So if there's somebody watching right now that wants to get started with meditation, what's the biggest pieces of advice you can get them to get started?
Well, let go of thinking that there's a right way to meditate. Sit still and meditate. Just sit still. That was the earliest advice on meditating for me at 8 years old. Okay, you're going to be still. And now that you are still, and that's like, we have 4 pillars to the meditation system. The first thing in the first pillar, which is your foundation, is be still, find your breath, connect to your heart, then practice no mind. Now, the practice of no mind, because I often hear people say, be mindful, stop your thoughts. No, you don't stop your thoughts. If you stop your thoughts, what are you, brain dead? I choose to stay alive in that sense. So as it's more of watching your thoughts, observing where your thoughts going, and now come into what we call the gap. The greatest anticipated peace is found in the gap, the space between your thoughts. And so that's the quickest way for me to describe it for someone. And just sit there. I mean, it can be 2 minutes, it can be 2 hours, it can be however long it needs to be for you, and keep going to the gap. Keep going to the gap. If you get lost in your thoughts, get still again, go back to your breath, feel your heartbeat, get to the gap. And so that right there could take someone through their whole lifetime in meditation, and it can go from a moment to a lot of moments. So that's where I'd start. If someone wants to check in on things, you can go to Gaia.com/Sid, and we've got meditations on Gaia and yoga classes and how to move your body, because it's the practice. That's what we get into, is the practice, and life is the practice. Life is the game, and I am constantly in the practice, and that allows me to move life the way I want it to go.
I everything that you said so far, I don't know if I'm biased because I live that and I agree with it so much, but it's so true. And try all different kinds of meditations in the very beginning. If you don't know what you do, like, there's guided meditations, there's other ones where it's just fan playing. There's other ones where if you want to learn more about who you were in a past life, there's so many different ones to do. So don't be afraid to think that there's not one out there for you. All you have to do is try. And I know there are a bunch of them on YouTube that are free. So if you're worried about payment, you don't have to worry about that either. And if you want an expert opinion and you don't want to go through somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, as Sid said, you can check out his information and his content on Gaia.com, which I will pull up later a little bit down the line later on in the episode. But Sid, man, since you have had so much experience with retreats and hosting your own sessions, can you talk about the most powerful or just the one that sticks out the most to you, whether it's a testimonial of something that when you were at a retreat, just a powerful story that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, the biggest one I'll share in this moment is I had someone come into a training, and when I'm working with people, especially if I'm helping them to become leaders in the world, we want to go in and say, okay, how can I heal so that I'm not a hurt person hurting other people? And I remember this young lady came in, and long story short, she wanted to shift her relationships in her life. First one was she was in a struggle with her mom. As soon as she let go of needing to change her mom called and said, I won't be home when you come home because I'm checking myself into alcohol rehab. And that was the big problem, was trying to get that space of hurt shifted between this person and her mom. And then that shifted, and she also had a relationship with her father that wasn't going the way she wanted. When she shifted the relationship with her father, her mother went to her mom and said, look what happened for her. She shifted by doing this work. And look what happened with her father. And the grandmother said, well, why don't you do that with your dad? And the mom said, what do you mean? My dad's been dead for 40 years. She said, no, I told you he was dead to you. So here it was, this person did enough work on herself that she shifted with her dad that impacted her mom, and then talked to the grandmom, and now it came back. And then they were there when the dad was actually dying. He had a week to live and he was in the hospital. They all ended up there. So when I look at this level of work, which I do with people, I can't, everybody does work, but I know we are frequency transformers. We transform someone's frequency. So when I transform the frequency in me, it can disrupt everything. And so when that happened for her, and they were able to go and sit by the bedside, think about the repercussions of that. Like, they don't even know that he's dying at the time he's dying. He's dying at this point, wanting to see his daughter he hasn't seen for 40 years. He meets his granddaughter. He heals with the grandmom. That's the impact. So when I think of people that are like, oh, I'm a meditator and this is the space I'm in, it can go so much bigger than that when we let go of thinking we know.
I love the fact that you said it does affect everything and everything as well, because it doesn't always have to be necessarily for the good things in our lives, but it can stop things from coming to us when it comes to bad things as well. So I firmly believe that we are ultimately at every second or every millisecond, if you want to consider it that, we are changing through so many different dimensions in our lifetimes. So if we are on that bad line of thinking, then like you said, we could have, or that in that specific instance, that lady, she could have just really gone through that same way of thinking, which was negative thinking. And then her dad could have passed and she would have never been able to have that connection and that closure and everything that she got in accordance with that. So it's really important, which I love the fact that you're talking about frequency. And there is a picture that I want to share with everybody. It's going to cover our faces just for a second. But we talk about this chart all the time, and this is the frequency chart, where if we are, vibrating at these levels of fear, of guilt, and shame, then that's when negative things start to happen in our life. But when we go through the positive reprogramming, whether that's meditation or finding a hobby that we really enjoy, or just being in flow, or picking up a book, whatever it is that you do to reprogram yourself for the positive, that's when we can start to live at that peace and that joy and that enlightenment. So really, what you put in, you put good in, you get good out. You put bad in, you get bad out. So simply put. But Sid, man, one of the biggest things that the doctors or the science doesn't talk about meditation is listening to our souls. And earlier in the show, you mentioned that whatever you did, you just had this voice in your soul that said, there's more to this, there's more to this. So if there's somebody that's watching right now, how can we listen to our souls and honor that voice?
Well, just like I just did there, right? The first thing is to just stop and listen. Like, listen. Like, for me, listening is in here. I can't do anything else to listen to listen. If I'm nodding my head, yes. Try listening and just nod your head, as someone can do this at home right now for themselves. As I'm talking, try nodding your head and see if you pick up every word that's coming out of my mouth. And I'm sure you will miss them, because we can only do one thing at 100%. So start there with listening, to really pay attention to, how am I listening? So now that when I start to recognize how I'm listening, I can also hear how my mind is communicating in the background that is actually bringing my life forward. So I think that's an important place to dive into. Just, how am I listening to me, so that I can be there with other people and I can shift my own listening. As I shift my listening, I see things differently, because I am always seeing through my eyes. If I see anger, that anger is coming through me to see it. If I see what I could have perceived as anger and I have compassion, I am the one having compassion. So I'm looking for that constantly within myself, and constantly going into myself and saying, okay, why is this world showing up this way? Because it's only showing up this way because I am the one it's coming through. A plus B equals C. I am the one that's creating the C, because I am the one seeing it. And I know I didn't know where we'd go tonight, yet if we need to go deep, we go deep. And if your listeners are in that place of listening for, okay, this is how you see the world. You turn on the TV, and if you see the things the way you see them, it's because you see them that way. Regardless, like, you could call and say there's some miraculous thing going on in the world that's taking everybody out. Well, I'm still good, because I see it that way. And I'm going to be that way. And I know some people might be like, no, that's your story, not mine. I'm good. I am, two most powerful words in the English language. And because I am good, I will be good. That's it.
Wow. I'm just sitting here smiling and laughing at everything that, well, not smiling and laughing at it. It's just because I feel like I'm talking to myself right now. And when I try to explain that to other people, they don't really understand that line of thinking. It's like you said, we can use that line of thinking kind of for everybody, right? It could be in the medical scare that we have had, in the past recently. It can be something as well as having that victim mindset to say, oh, because I'm this. All right, I'm going to say it, because let's be authentic and transparent here. If I'm this skin color or I'm this kind of background, that everybody's going to see the world and me as that way. Well, no shit that when it starts to happen to you that way and you see it happen in the real world, you're the one that called that into your life. So it's no wonder that it's going to show you everything that you are talking about it. So I agree with you 100%. And that's why when you hear about medical breakthroughs, when you hear about blessings and miracles happening in people's lives, just talk to these people and see how they thought about that situation. And Sid, we've had people here that have broken out of the human trafficking system. We had guests on here that have broken through and healed from having cancer, and it's all from the power of their mind. So if you say that I'm healthy, number one, you're just commanding your body and your reality to bend that way and to transpire that way. And number two, you're just convincing yourself that it just happens. It's going to happen the way that you call it to. When you said that idea of the two words is I am, there are theologians and people that study the Bible, have it, day in and day out. And they say that the word of God, his name is I am. If you go through like the phonetics and the breath work of everything, I just wanted to share that with everybody. But yes, Sid, you're so right. So when it comes to that, what are some of the biggest things that you think people do on the day to day that kind of have that victim mindset, or they have those things that life happens to them, but they're able to break out of it just by the power of their perspective?
Well, first, you know, the mindset of being the victim, most people are wanting to be the victim. And I know people will argue this until they recognize that they want their life to be the way it is. So much that they are going through the process and looking at things and saying it's that way when it doesn't have to always be that way. And I'll say that knowing that at one point I had somebody come in my life who taught me, what's your favorite vibration? That was the question they asked. And I said, love. And she was a tough SOB,
Yeah.
son of a gun. And so she said, no, I'm through with you. I don't want to hear you. You're not about love. And I was like, dang, that was harsh. And I paused and I said, okay, I get it. She said, no, I don't want to hear from you. I said, yeah, but I get it. I need to tell you this. She said, all right, I'm going to give you, if you get it right, we're good. If not, I have this paddle and I'm going to hit you with it. Now I'm like 40 something years old at this point. And she was just who she was. And I said, well, actually, my favorite vibration is misery. She said, oh, what do you mean? I said, my favorite vibration is misery because I am miserable more than I want to be. And she said, exactly. When you really want love, you will have love. When you really want peace, you will have peace. That's how I have peace at 100%. It's not because everything around me is always hunky-dory. It's because I am peace. Like all these people that come to me and they're like, I want to heal this. I want to heal this. I want to shift this. No, you don't. You actually want to keep it because you're even talking about it right now as you have an opportunity to let it go and be here right now, to be truly present. Some people will say, oh, I want peace in the world, but they're worried about the bombs happening in the world. You don't want peace. You're focused on the bombs. Like, let's get real. People, as soon as people start to get truthful with themselves, and especially with the people talking into their life, those speaking into your life, the leaders that we say we want governing our humanness, I'm calling BS on that. Belief system. BS, belief system, same initials. They are guiding you into a place that they know they got you. And it's time for us to be different that way. That's why when you asked in the beginning, who am I? I'm human. I'm human. And in my humanness, I care about everybody. I care about everybody having that level of peace to heal this world so we have a better world. This is no coincidence that the person that you were going to have on here tonight is not here. I knew I needed to get this message forward in a new way, and this is the place to do it. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for honoring that and showing up and being authentic and true, because there's so many people here that are resonating with this experience and resonating with everything that we're talking about. And they might have learned a new perspective, whether they're commenting right now, they might be experiencing this wonderful content at a later time. But what we're doing is raising the earth. And, Sid, I just want to talk about two quick things that you just mentioned is that, yes, people do say that they want certain things, but when it's time to act on those things of peace and love, they don't do it. And I think it's for two reasons. Number one, I think they do find peace in that misery, right? Because if we look at a great example of relationships, and somebody that's growing up, if they had an abusive relationship that they saw their mother and father had, they think that that's what relationships should be. So they're going to go out and emulate that because they don't know anything else. And since they are only going to revert back to what they know, trying to change that line of thinking different from what they know, that's going to create turmoil within themselves. That's going to turn their world upside down. And they're going to think that everything that they know was to be a lie. And once you find out that everything you thought was a lie, that you get mind fucked. Excuse my language. But everything doesn't happen that way. So I think that they find peace. It's funny enough, right? It's an oxymoron. They do find peace in their misery. But then number two, I think some people truly don't know what it takes and how long it's going to take or what the process is in order to combat that negative programming. Because if your entire life you've been taught one thing and you have to go do and perform something else, well, it's nice to have a coach or somebody there that can give you that support system in order to change that piece as well. So that's why I think it's huge that we find a community of people that we can turn to and trust to that actually know what they're talking about, and not the ones that say, all right, well, if you give me $1,000, I'll teach you how to do everything, or I'll teach you how to manifest, because that's a big one. When in reality, Sid, as you know, we're all manifestors. We do it anyway. It's just about tuning and turning to a different eye and a different perspective on what it takes to get to that point.
Yeah, we're definitely all creating our reality, and for me, and that's something that I want people to know, is as we do all these things, I've got the autobiography of a human coming out. I've got the movie Crossroads series that is Nahi and the Four Warriors is the first part, and the 11 books of Crossroads and all the things, and stepping into leading this country in a major way. All those different things. I will say that we need to stop sugarcoating it. We want what we have, or we would not have it. Let that sit in. Like, I don't care who you are, where you are in your life, and I know you could possibly do something, yet I'm sure you're going to take this in right now in this moment. You're going to take this in and say, okay, I'm done. I'm done being the person that's beaten in life. I'm done being the person that is fed sugar that's killing me. I'm done being the person when you really want it, it's over. It just stops. I've been that person. I hit 750 blood sugar count and went blind. I was that person. I don't want that in my life for 100%. I want to be healthy, happy, and free. I am. That's it. Like when it comes down to it, that's why I want to be able to do all this stuff for free. Like, I want to put 80,000 people in a stadium and watch their frequency grow and not charge them 25 grand to do it. Like, I'm not interested in being that person. I'm interested in helping the world be different so that we have a better world for the next 7 generations to come. So that we have a better world that when we think we have to die, if we've learned another way, we've expanded so much that we've created another earth for us to live on, to move with everybody. So we don't have to kill off people in order to be so consumed with holding this earth, because we've expanded. We've become the God that's inside of us. When we have done that, then we've gotten to where my brain goes. Like, so it took me a while to get here to be okay sharing that level of what I've always known. Mm-hmm. From the moment I came here, I knew that I was here to create that level of vibration in the world that lets everybody live into their greatness. I'm grateful to be here with you. And, I have tattoos. I have a lot of tattoos. And the same guy did all my tattoos except for one tattoo. And it's a small part on the back. My back is a big eagle, and it says Nirvana. I got it when I was in Italy. I wanted to get something when I was in Italy, knowing, and I didn't even know that next year I'll be going to speak at the Vatican. Like, I had no clue when I did that I was in Italy saying I want Nirvana, not the music group, Nirvana, the energy of movement, that I wanted that marked on me so that when I go back to Italy to speak, we bring that forward. Sustainability for everybody, a different transformation for everyone to be in, where people are able to be into the abundance that is available for everybody, that everyone can lift each other up. I know it sounds, for some people, they may have this thought, but now let's cancel that thought. Delete it. If it's not serving your highest, just delete it. Let's move on to something new.
Straight up. And one of the things that you were just talking about on the tail end was that concept of abundance. And we as humans, as a human species, are able to live that life. Every single person on this planet, there's enough resources to live whatever a life it is that we want to live. And once we start to understand that, and once we have more people coming out to say that publicly, like you have just done right now, Sid, and we will continue to do going forward here on Weekly Dose of Dano, and that we talk about week in, week out, that is when the conversation will start to change. So you got people in here just loving everything that you're saying, Sid. So God is so good. Yes, we have a preach. I guess they saw the preacher coming out already right there. We have got a jet for dinner. Thank you so much for being here with us, Chris. We do appreciate you so much and leaving your love and your great vibes on here. We have Christopher not talking much because more focusing more on listening, and we appreciate that. And everybody else that we can't see for being a part of this, and we just have to hear a word from our second sponsors, which we were supposed to play. Right? Let me put quotes around that a little bit ago, but they're gonna not be so happy if we don't play. So here's a word from It Takes a Village Housing here in the South Jersey area, where they provide resources to women and children that have been affected by drugs and alcohol, and they have just been doing such an amazing job. Let me see, where can I find it? One second. We have so many different commercials and sponsors. All right, here it is. So here it is, everybody. A word from our second sponsor. It Takes a Village Housing.
Takes a village about keeping our families together.
God bless this organization.
That was our second sponsor. It Takes the Village Housing. They're doing great things in the community in New Jersey, South Jersey, and we appreciate them so much for everything that they've done for the community. And I do have a close, very personal relationship with the owner as well, and she's absolutely amazing. So, everybody, that was our second sponsor. And Sid, for we need to have so many different episodes. This needs to be like an ongoing series to really dive deep into everything that you said, because, like you said, of the idea of the world splitting apart, where we're just so focused on the positive and the peace part of it, that those people that are on the same planet as us, so to speak, they'll start to fizzle away and they'll start to create their own separate planet. And you're like, oh, whatever happened to that person? Well, that person is living in a totally different reality than where we are. But since we only had this time for an hour, I want to be able to plug you in so that other people can go to find out more about your work. And I'm just going to show on the screen your Amazon series and all the books that you've written. So can you tell us a little bit about you as an author?
Yeah, my authorship started when I was 22. I was coaching college football, and I really wanted to become a head football coach. Head football coaches have autobiographies. So that's how it started, which actually took me 30 years to complete. I just had no clue that it was going to, in order to really tell my autobiography, I needed to live more. So that 30-year process produced 9 other books. You've got the 6 books that are here, and then we've got 3 books that I co-authored, and this is now where we are. And so as an author, I've grown a lot. We just had this guy, George, who's been in the publishing game for 45 years. He's read 5,000 books. And he said this book that's coming is the best book he's ever read, and compared it to Ernest Hemingway.
Wow.
So with that being said, I feel like I can call myself an author now,
Yeah.
like I feel
Just
like
now, right?
I've been in it, and so I'm excited to let this book out into the world for sure.
Wow, that's beautiful. And it's funny that you said only now that you can start to call yourself an author after 30 years of practicing and working on your craft as well. So everybody, if you are interested, you can go to this Amazon website, which I can drop in here for everybody as well. Just give me 1 second.
And I
And
will say
Sid,
that
yeah,
as somebody goes through and they're looking for how to shift their life, those who know God, the secret weapon, get either one because it's kind of in the same realm. And that helps someone really start to see, like we've been talking about without saying it, we've been talking about the programs that are running in the back of someone's mind. So
mhm.
that's a great place to start. If someone is looking for how to step into, it's actually along the lines of the program that we run that's called A Quest for Peace, then I would pick up The Warrior Within and A Quest for Peace. If you want to go deeper, we've got programs for people to get into with that, and a simple pocketbook, The Path to Peace. You pick it up, you'll read through it as soon as it comes. You'll read through it in moments. You can put it in your pocket and continue to practice peace in that way. And then Yoga and Life Empowerment is a 6-week self-study program so someone can get into the practice of meditation and yoga, and as well as studying themselves. So that's the breakdown of all those books. And I'm just so excited about the fact that we just had somebody say, all right, this book is the next level. So I'm excited for the book to come, and those are great places to start, and look forward to getting this one out as well.
Yeah, well, I'm really curious about that other book that you have coming out as well. So, wow, the time is just blowing by, and we only have a few minutes left. So when can we expect that next book, the sixth book?
At the end of somewhere towards the end of the year, like
Okay.
November, December, is when that'll come out. We'll have a whole rollout coming out shortly because we'll have pre-sales, we'll have the audio book, and then comes out the ebook, and then finally the actual physical book. So it'll roll out in that way. It was two books being written at once. They were being written together as one, and this one got so big that we had to separate them and make two books. So excited
Wow.
for all of it. Yeah, I've got 13 books that are ready to go. So we're gonna drip them out. Obviously, we're not gonna be like, here's 13 books, go at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where it is. And
Beautiful.
yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, and I just want to share with everybody as well. This is Sid's website. If you want to go check out some more information about him, we have the speaking, the keynotes, the media, the about, and some merch. If you want to go cop that to support Sid. And here's just a quick look at that as well. And Sid, I'm just, going through this really quickly because we always wrap up the show in the same fashion with every question for the same week. And I just want to talk about right here. Christopher right here says that he is making note of that book release, and he says we need to do like a 2-hour episode special. We're gonna have to make that happen because we have so many things that we need to talk about. And Sid says as well during the commercial break, it's time we're the ones who will transform the world. Peace. So Sid, let's ask the final question for today because I don't want to take up too much of your time. If there's somebody watching right now that is going through their deepest, darkest moments and they're not sure how to get out of it, what information or what pieces of advice would you give them in order to get out of that negative mindset?
First, I'll say make the commitment. You say you want out, what would that look like? Know what you want. And if that is bringing peace forward, make the commitment to peace. And anyone that doesn't have peace in their life right now, I'd say pause, breathe, make the commitment to peace. Now go live that out for 24 hours. If you make it 24 hours with peace for 24 hours, then go for a week. You make it a week, go for a month. You make it a month, go for a year. And that's where I would start. Make the commitment. If you really want peace, make the commitment. Now that looks like when something happens in life and maybe someone cuts you off in a car, choose peace as opposed to choosing I want to flip them off. Right? Like that's a
Yeah.
simple way of looking at it. So if someone is in turmoil, first and foremost, know what you want, commit to it, and go get it. Be relentless in that pursuit. You know, I was relentless about pursuing peace. So it took me through all the steps to get here. Be relentless about it. And then the second thing along those lines, there are a lot of great people that can help. We've got people that have tuned in here that help people. You do. There's plenty of people. Now go find those people and make the commitment and jump into it. You know, however that looks. You know, I've got 180 days of 1-minute videos every day straight, talking about, if people really want it, go watch all 180 of them. By the end of it, you'll be like, whoa, okay, now it's time for me to live it out. Like, if you need it for free, go do it. I'm putting it out there so people can have it. It's not just, I'm not saying just give me your money. I'm saying, here it is. You got to do the work. Do the work. That's what I got.
Beautifully said, and I agree with you so much. It's beyond liking the post on social media and buying the books and not opening it. You have to take that accountability to yourself to say, okay, this is what I need to do every single day to get out of this funk and to be the best version of ourselves. The 3 areas that I think we should do it. Number 1, we need a spiritual win. Number 2, we need a physical win. And number 3, we need a mental win. So if you want to do the mental, you read a book. If you want to do the physical side, go jump some rope or go walk the park or just do something that's active. And then spiritual, like we've talked about for the entire episode, do some meditation or even listen to a spiritual teacher. And even if you may not agree with them, you learn what you don't want in your life and you're able to kind of discern what it is that we resonate with or what we don't resonate with. If it's true, if it's not true, it's totally up to you to decide that. But when you do hear the truth, you'll know inside of you that that is what you do need to listen to. So just 2 more comments here because we are a little bit over the time. Jeanette says, Jeanette, keep going, keep making just such great content and great show. Thank you all for being here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. We will continue to bring this great life-changing content to you. And I don't say life-changing lightly. I literally do mean that as well. And like I told you before, I think we delivered on that promise. They stayed for 10 minutes and we have everybody staying for the entire episode as well. So I honor you, Sid. Thank you so much for being here. Your golden nuggets, your great energy is what we need in this world. So please continue on, which I already know you're going to go do it anyway. But please go on to continue to touch the lives of the people that you do come into connection with, and even the people that we don't know that we are connecting with along the way. So thank you for everything that you've done to the Positivity Posse just by you showing up and being here and leaving your great energy and comments. That is a step in the right direction, that you're showing up for yourself, right? And you're showing up for other people to really come together to elevate the vibrations of the earth and to tune the frequency to as much love and enlightenment as we can get to. And I just can't just say thank you enough to everybody as well. So I will see you next next Thursday for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Sid, just stick around for just a few more minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But to my Positivity Posse, have a great weekend. And we will see you next week for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Peace, everybody. Thank you all so much.
Peace.